Okay, Eric, well done on being first in the chat. I wonder if I can set up an autoresponder that says something clever in response. Maverick saying hello there. Okay, so I'm going to do a flight today from Stansted. Let's just open the map up to show you this. So from Stansted in England over to Berlin in Germany. If we go and copy the flight plan and drop it into Navigraph as well, then we get to look at charts on the way, which will be quite useful. So unload new flight and paste this in, and then we'll obviously complete the details within here. So we'll be taking off runway 04 from Stansted because of the wind. There's very little wind around. And at Berlin, can we get straight to the... Interesting. Anyway, we're going to be using runway 07 right, and yeah, so it should be fairly straightforward. 07 right, add to route, and the approach will be the ILS for runway 07 right, add to route. So there's a little bit of vectoring involved en route, but nothing too bad. Okay, so let's go and get a Navigraph out of the way. So this is just an invented route, we're not flying airways at all. So it should be good fun. I'm not going to be on VATSIM, because otherwise I can't chatter away and I can't wander off and make a coffee or anything like that. Okay, so we have the Learjet. So I'm not going to be looking at the live stream comments for the next couple of minutes because I need to work through the checklist, and it's on the same laptop as my monitor of the live stream. So I apologise for that in advance. So as some of you may have seen, I've written a first draft of the startup procedure, but it may well change enormously because talking to real Learjet pilot, it depended on operators whether they started on batteries or on the GPU, and it's debatable which way is better, and you know, the health of the battery, the cost of a battery versus the cost of a GPU, and all the rest of it. Okay, so let's just check that the controls are working, and they appear to be, and I appear to have throttles. Okay, so we go into the tablet, so we hook it on, and we switch the tablet on, and we come in here and we can say that none of the chocks or anything are on, which is good. We'll go and disable the clackers. Actually, no, I'll leave them on so you can hear them, and then we'll remove them in a moment. Actually, I'll leave the tablet on for the moment. So down underneath the pilot's system here, we can go and turn the batteries on, turn the inverters on. On the co-pilot instrument panel, we can go and put the nav light on and set the pressurization dial. So what altitude are we going to fly at today? Should we go up to 36? That's interesting, so that's in between the markers. Anyway, so control 5, the Garmin GNS, we're going to go and program the flight plan in. So we'll let us capture the satellites. While we're here, we'll put the... Oh, of course we haven't put the avionics switch on yet, have we? So we'll wait for that. That's fascinating, actually. Yeah. Ah, we didn't put ground power unit on, did we? Have I got that missing on my checklist? No, I just didn't do it. So let's put the GPU in place. So we're just waiting for the satellites to capture, and then we can get on with programming the route in. It's going to be an interesting one. So we're going leaving Stansted, runway 04, the Clacton 5S departure. So EGSS to EDDB. Come on, GPS, hurry up. The Airbus throttles work fine with the Learjet. Just looking at the live stream comments there. Okay, so flight plan. EGSS, Stansted, enter, and what am I doing? EDDB. It's Berlin, enter. And menu, select departure. I'm going to do this from an angle. It's easier actually to do it from over here. Let's get rid of the yoke out of the way. So what did we say we're doing? The Clacton 5S departure. And there it is. And runway 04, enter, and load that into the flight plan. And then we'll press menu again, and we will select the approach into Berlin. It will be the ILS runway 07 right. Enter. And we'll just use vectors, we won't bother with the transition. And we'll load that. And we'll OK that. And then we'll go menu again, and we will select the arrival. So standard terminal arrival route, and it's going to be the OGB07R. My word, there's a lot of them. There it is. Enter. 07 right. Load. Enter. Done. So then we want to find the point at which we leave this and go across, because we're going to put some VORs in just to make the route a bit more interesting. So we want, following Clacton, we want to go to RTM. So there's Clacton. So we want to go RTM. So if we go on top of this waypoint and put in RTM, it should push it down. Then we want to go to EEL. Then BMN for Bremen. And a BKD for, now what's the name of that? Brunkendorf. BKD, okay. Okay, I've lost the focus now. And then that goes into Ogba, which is correct. Okay, so that's the flight plan done. Put the CDI modes on GPS, which is good. So then we can go down to Control 4, and we can go and move the seatbelt no smoking light to on. We'll go over to the tablet now, go and get the GPU out of the way. We don't need to push back, we're at a, oh do we actually? That's a good point. So this is a whole debatable thing in the whole procedure story, where you might want to do the pushback before you start the engines, but in a business jet, I guess you could start the engines before pushback, because the advantage of doing so is foreign object damage. So obviously, if you're in a nice clean area when you start the engines, it's always good, but I think you can say that the whole area in a big airport like this is clean. So what you might do is, while the pushback is happening, is go and turn the beacon lights on. Then come over here. Where can we do this from the easiest? So I'm going to do it from the pilot position because it makes more sense. Let's go and turn the parking brake off so we can actually be pushed backwards. Is he still there? Oh, here he comes. So we go left engine start. So you can see there the turbine speed is increasing. When it gets to 20%, we can unhook. Oh, that's already done it. Interesting. So they would have just come up on their own. So Shift P, let's stop the pushback, put the parking brake back on for the moment until we get the engines up and running. And then obviously once the engine has stabilized, which it appears to have, we can flick this back down, up to Gen. Then the right engine goes into start. So we just monitor the engine gauges, so you got the gas turbine speed at the top, temperature, and then the fan speed at the bottom. So if you have a look outside, so the engines are gently coming up to speed. So you can see the speed's increasing. So that was interesting. Obviously there's a bit of work they need to probably do on the movement of the throttles. They shouldn't probably advance before you've pulled up the shut-off switches, but they do. If you move the controllers, they will move and they will unlock themselves from shut-off. Okay, so engines running, so we can then switch over to right gen, which is good. So control 4. We're going to go and put the pitot heat on. Avionics master switch goes to on. Radio altitude, auto pilot. And the emergency battery can go to standby. It's already on standby. That's interesting. Okay, stall warning section. Left and right to on, up. So that's over here. So I've got a missing. I'm just going to correct my procedure here. I've just realised I've got something missing here, so I should have done that from control 5, I guess. No, it's good. So then back over on the co-pilot section, we're going to go and set the cabin heating to halfway. Back on the pedestal, we're going to go and press the steer lock button, and then we're going to have a look and see if it's come on. No, it hasn't. Try it again, and it's come on now. So we've now got nose wheel steering in operation, which is always good. So we need to sort out the pitch trim as well. So you can see by default it's nose down, so we need to hold nose up on until the pitch trim starts moving. Is it going to? Yeah, here it comes. It just takes a while. So we want to get it between 4 and 6. It's a good point actually. How much fuel have I got on board? I was just thinking of in terms of centre of gravity while we were doing that. Yeah, so we've got enough range. That's good. So then back on the instrument panel, we can go and turn the weather radar on. So that's over here. I don't think it's operable, but we can have the map mode on. We'll leave it on weather anyway, just so it looks like it's doing something. Transponder now, we can, obviously we've got the avionics on now, so we can put that on standby. So we can go and set the correct barometric pressure. Obviously we can shortcut that with B, or we can go and find out what the barometric pressure is. So you can either do that in LittleNavMap or in Navigraph. So we can go to information for the airport, open the airport, and we've got the weather report here, 1017 or 30.03. So we want to go and change baro to 30.03. There are 3 altimeters. Okay. Pre-select the initial climb altitude. So on this departure, you can see here, actually this is different, let's have a look. So above 3,000, yeah, so then we got a restriction of 4,000 feet. So we can see that on the chart actually, if we go and pull up the chart. So you've got 4,000 being mandated, and then Clacton at 5,000. Or sorry, en route to Clacton, climb to 5,000, then 6,000, 6,000 at Clacton, and then we can climb to altitude. So our first altitude we'll worry about is 4,000 feet, so that'll be our initial climb altitude. And then we'll climb to 5 and then 6 and then upwards. Okay. So we'll also go and set the direction of the runway at Stansted into the course and the heading. So 42 degrees. We'll also go and press D to see, yeah, notice that I drifted ever so slightly. This drifts. So Control 1, we can see the, we have to align the flight director here. I don't actually know it, I don't think it's a flight director, it's just an indicator to set your reference for climb rate. So on the airspeed indicator as well, we can set our reference marker. Again, it's just a reference marker to give you a visual indication of where you are in terms of speed. So do we have any airspeed restrictions on the way out? I don't think we do, so it's just going to be 250 until we get to 10,000 feet. Okay, so we're ready to taxi essentially. So Control 4, turn the lights to taxi, and go to the holding point for runway 4. So off the parking brake. So you can hear the clackers, as they call them, the VOR. So we're going to go and turn that off, and the trim clacker as well, otherwise it will drive us around a twist. So we're going to make our way down to runway 04 at Stansted. I apologise for the stuttering. It's because I've got the good version of Stansted installed, which is obviously a frame rate murderer. You'll notice as well the aeroplane's accelerating while on idle. So you do end up feathering the brakes a lot. We'll just let it taxi at extreme high speed, hey? Or maybe we'll go inside. Turn the head tracking on. Get rid of the tablet out of the way, maybe. Fastest taxi ever. Okay, we'll go in from this intersection, it's fine. Okay, you go across the Alpha taxiway. Oh, it's a good point actually. This is the reverse angle. Yeah, we're going to go further. Go for the next one. Okay, so we've got a laundry list of bits and pieces to look at. So Control 6, we go down to the lights, turn the recognition and the strobe lights on, and Control 4, come back over here, turn the landing lights on, turn the transponder to on, put the flaps to 8 degrees for takeoff, and back in the cockpit we're going to go and arm the thrust reversers in case we need them, and we're going to pre-select the autopilot modes. So we're going to go for nav mode, so it will track the GPS route. We're also going to altitude, arm the altitude select. When we have taken off, we can use vertical speed mode or speed mode. Speed mode will engage and reference the altitude we're at when we, sorry, the speed we're at when we engage it. So that's worth knowing about that. But again, we can press D. You can see that moved ever so slightly. Okay, so we're ready to go. So I'm going to put the live stream chat back on. So I'm just reading through the stream comments here. VL3 simulations, yes, I read that. On the VOR flight, how can I get the exit via the exit fixes? How will I know where I am? I'm not sure what you mean by exit fixes. Unless you're on about why you suddenly get manual or vectors in the middle of the flight plan, it's because they're actually there. There is no flight plan there. You would be taking ATC instruction. Okay, so parking brake off. So our initial climb out is to 4,000 feet, remember. Which this thing can do very easily. Okay, let's see how we get on. The wind is pushing us around a little bit on the runway, but that's fine. So we'll start to rotate gently. And gear up. And flaps up. And engage. And go for speed mode. So we're going for 4,000 feet initially, so I'm going to slow down to control the climb rate. You can see we are moving at a rate of knots. So if we look on the map, we should be about to turn right, and there we go. So looking at the Navigraph chart here, yeah, we need to be we're over 3,000 now, which is good, on our way up to 4,000. So should we let the airplane increase in speed? At 4,000 feet, so we're just controlling power now to maintain airspeed below 250 knots. So there's no point controlling altitude anymore. We've already got altitude hold on automatically, so we can go and spin the heading bug and the course around to match the direction we're going, so we've got some reference of whether the GPS is keeping us on track. Let's have a look at the map. So we're coming out towards Barkway. So although we're not going to engage it yet, we're going to go and select 5,000. We can put this on the first page and it gives us a bit better indication of what's going on. So Clacton 2-1 at 4,000, Clacton 16, or 16 miles from Clacton, that means, at 5,000. So you can see those marked in, so it's Clacton 2-1. Speed is good. Something I was just going to check, is this one got the, yeah, transition altitude is 6,000 feet. So we have to change the barometric pressure as we climb up through 6,000, but that won't happen until we get beyond Clacton. So as soon as we get through Clacton 2.1, we can press speed, increase power, and climb. Okay, so we have to go altitude, sorry I forgot, altitude select, then speed, then climb. And obviously it turns the excess power into climb rate to maintain the airspeed. So you can see it climbs like nobody's business, it's very good. So what happens after that? So we get to 5,000 feet for 16, which isn't marked on here, bizarrely. But we can see it here. And then okay, D265P, and then 65M is 6,000 feet. Okay, that's fine. So we're just coming up for 5,000 feet for this one, which is perfect. So that will switch over to altitude hold. Altitude select is captured. There it goes, done. So then we can pre-select 6,000. And we can go speed mode again and increase power. Oh, I didn't altitude select, did I? Let's get that back under control. So just get us back to 250 knots. Okay, so we're just coming up to 6,000 feet now. Look at it climb. It's like a rocket ship, isn't it? Got a little bit of icing going on, so we need to come down here and take care of that. Okay, so we stay at 6,000 feet as far as I'm aware until Clacton, and then we can climb to altitude. So we're on altitude hold. We're too powerful though, look, we're edging above 250 knots. So let's pull that back. See, here comes Clacton. See it on all the charts. And then we're off to the races and following our climb to cruise, which will be pretty straightforward. So we're holding, yeah, we've got altitude hold on 6,000 feet, so we can go and pre-select our cruise altitude, which is 36,000 feet today. Although east is odd, isn't it, normally, but it doesn't always apply. Depends what the controller tells you to do. Now I'm going too slow. Let's get it back to 250. I'm just watching the indicated airspeed over here. Approaching Clacton. Does this map work when we're in progress, or is it just... No, it doesn't. So here comes Clacton. We've got the pre-selector for 36,000 feet, so we will go and arm that. And then we go for speed mode, and we open the throttles and we climb to altitude. So we've just gone through 6,000 feet, so we're going to, I think we can press this to go to standard. Will it change to 2992 on its own? Maybe not. We can always do it ourselves. And 2992. And 2992. Okay, so 9,000 feet. So as we come through 10,000 feet, we can obviously accelerate, but we may as well just use speed mode to get to cruise. It's just as easy. We could go vertical speed and choose a lower climb rate to let the airplane accelerate out to sort of 300 knots, but there's no real point. Should have a play with the VOR radios while we're on the way. So the next one we're going to is RTM 110.40. So let's go and tune that in, shall we? 110.40. Transfer that across, and it hasn't picked it up yet. Can we pick up the one we just left behind then, Clacton? 11455. And there we go, distance measuring's working, and it's spun round, obviously pointing behind us. So if we tune in 11040 on nav2, then we should get, that's interesting, that should be pointing the other way. Maybe they haven't implemented that yet. Ah, it hasn't picked it up yet, of course, yes. We're too far away. What's the range on this one then? Rotterdam. $100 miles. So if we do a measure, how far away are we? 111. So in a few minutes' time, or in a minute or so's time, it will wake up. So we're coming up to 18,000 feet. We can go and adjust the course again to point the direction we're actually going, and the heading bug to go the actual direction we're going. It becomes a thankless task doing that, doesn't it? We probably don't need the heaters on anymore. Above the cloud now. So should we see if, though this still hasn't swung around, let's see if we can get a distance on nav2 yet. Nope, nothing yet. We can also get minutes. So 3.5 minutes away, isn't it? Because it's behind us. Interesting. But obviously the GPS gives us everything we need to know, so it's 103 nautical miles to the next one. 17 minutes. So you'd thought that might have picked it up by now. I noticed this the other day, or yesterday, sorry, that the Mach meter tends to jiggle around. So that's obviously something they'll fix, I imagine. I've got one of the heating systems is still on as well, yeah. NAC heat off. We want pitot heat on. the others can come off. That's good. How are we doing for temperatures on the engines? We're not pushing them very hard, are we? We could climb a lot harder. Should we see what happens if we go maximum power? Keep an eye on these turbine temperatures. Isn't it interesting how the left engine runs hotter than the right? I wonder if that's something that happened with the real thing. I'm just going to ease it back away from the yellow area there. So we're climbing at 3,500 feet a minute. That's not bad, is it? There we go. That radio's woken up now, look. So if we switch this over, Nav 1 is now going to agree with Nav 2. And we're counting down the miles on the radio beacon as well as on the GPS. It's interesting how they're slightly different than each other. Okay, so we've got a few minutes to go, a quarter of an hour until we get to the next beacon. So I'll wait until we get to cruise altitude and then I'm going to go make a drink. I wish Flight Sim would fix this issue with the lines out of the back of the aeroplanes at altitude. It's a real pain. Oh, it's okay. Just talk to myself, take no notice. Okay, you're coming up to 31,000 feet. The climb rate is dropping off, obviously, as we get higher. The amount of power required is increasing to achieve the same ends. Yeah, it's getting thinner, obviously. So 32,000 feet, just going through. And I guess now we're near top of, or we're near cruise, we'll just go to seatbelt signs. Actually no, we can turn them off, can't we? Let people wander around. Doesn't mean they can have a cigarette though. There's no signal to say don't smoke, but you can undo your seatbelt. They're not independent. I guess that's a sign of the era, isn't it, when this was designed? So many people smoked, it was... Anyway. Keeping an eye on everything, coming up to 34,000 feet, still doing 1,500 feet a minute, which is good. So we should get there quite naturally without having to fiddle with anything. So obviously we could go for vertical speed and trade off some airspeed. But we're going to get there quite handily by the look of it. So let's have a look at the map, see where we are. Somewhere out over the English Channel at the moment. So let's get rid of that diagram. We can look at that on LittleNavMap as well. Let's make this shorter. We don't need to see the stats at the moment. So we are on our way to the Rotterdam VOR. So the beep was we're within 1,000 feet of our target altitude. So altitude select should say capture in a moment, and then it'll switch over to altitude hold automatically. And then if we leave the power in place, the aeroplane will accelerate once it gets to altitude all on its own. But then it's just a case of us setting the power as required to hold the speed we want. Here we go, it's captured. So the airplane will now begin accelerating. So we could set a marker out here. We don't want to go any faster than 300. I mean, this aircraft can go a lot higher. I've just chosen 360 arbitrarily, really. So I'm inclined to just leave the turbines at the rate we've got them, sort of 90%. And we'll see what happens. It's interesting, isn't it, that if I even up the turbine speeds, then the temperature is uneven, but it's probably better to have the same amount of thrust and just put up with different temperatures. Otherwise the airplane is sliding sideways through the air. A bit less efficient probably. So JFoot's saying, I would buy this plane, but Alt Alert Horn sounds exactly like my oven timer. That's brilliant, I like that. Why are we getting... Oh, it's the overspeed warning. Okay, so we are not going to run that fast. So I'm just going to slow us down a bit. So I'm just edging the turbine speed back up to see where it stabilizes. So 85%. Let's go for 87% on the gas turbines. And I think that will probably be quite... it's still wavering around a lot, isn't it? It's difficult to tell with it moving so much. I guess we could use the... Yeah, we've got ground speed here, which is obviously being measured from the GPS. So that would give us a very good indication of if we're speeding up or slowing down. We are speeding up. So obviously this doesn't jitter. Yeah, so 460 knots, that's good enough, that's fine. 461 is creeping up and up, isn't it? But we'll leave it alone. I did the trick, just reading the live stream comment from Hobart, was it Hobart Nagarek? Yeah, I did the trick yesterday on my first proper landing with it. I forgot to rearm the reversers, because obviously while you're in flight you can disarm them. And yeah, I completely forgot about it. And we also didn't turn the landing lights off when we came through 10,000 feet, which we should have done. So missed that completely. Okay, so we can zoom out on this and show a bit more of the flight plan, I guess. There we go. It doesn't clutter as much when you show more range on it. So I'm going to leave this flying along quite happily for a while. And I'll see you in a bit, because I'm going to go make a coffee. What I'll do is go to window, open window, layout, minimal, put this up in the corner of the screen. around. Actually, I'm not going to, because it phases, doesn't it, on the engines at the moment, which is really annoying. So I'll just leave it in the cockpit. You can see the GPS down there, so we kind of know where we are. So I'm going to go make a coffee. I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, I'm back. So if we go and have a look inside the aeroplane, let's pretend we've just been vectored by air traffic control up to a much higher altitude, shall we? So what we'll do, say we go to 40,000 or 41, because you're supposed to be on an odd altitude anyway, travelling east. And we will then go, so continuing on with the same power, go vertical speed. So to use vertical speed in this aircraft, we need to go in altitude select, and then it's this knob here. You can select your climb rate. It's a little bit inexact, but it's pretty good. So 1,500 feet a minute. So let's go and open the throttles up to counter the... You can see the speed's coming off almost immediately. So we're going to go and we're going to push it basically. So it's holding just under 250 knots with the temperatures just off the yellow. So it's going to do it quite handily. It's just, the speed is just dropping. So you can see there on the ground speed, 456. Yeah, you can't use this as a good, because we're climbing, obviously this is going to get less, so we're better off going by the ground speed from the GPS. So Adrian's saying, how's it going up there? It's going great. So while we're doing this, shall we, I'll look it up on the other screen so I don't go and disrupt the stream. I'm going to look up Learjet 35A ceiling. Can we find out? $45,000 feet. So we could go up to 43. We'll do it. See, look, we've got the same ground speed, but obviously the indicated airspeed is dropping off because we are so high, the air's getting thinner and thinner and thinner. We do need to factor that into our descent though, so I think a business jet can come down a fair bit steeper than a commercial airliner. But yeah, we have to factor in, so if we're going to go up to 43,000 feet, 3 times that is going to be significantly further for the descent. Yeah, you're looking at 140 miles to descend. So let's go and have a look on LittleNavMap. So when we get closer to Berlin, obviously it's got this racetrack approach which helps, but if we just put in, say, 120 miles in for where we start to think about descending, just based on that, double going back on itself. So has this gone? This is armed and it's not climbing any further. What's happened with that then? Vertical speed. Another 3,000 feet, please. Was that something I did? Or was that something the airplane did? So we'll go and line the course up again because we have been very lax and not lined it up with our route, and the same with the heading bug. So the next VOR, so 11240 is the one we're flying towards right now, so we could go and tune that in. If I'm just going to get rid of the yoke out of the way for the moment. Okay, so we've got 26 miles, and then the next one will be 11745, so we'll get that ready on the standby frequency. So we can just switch over. Obviously we're flying on GPS, but it's nice to have the backup of the radio beacon. So 20 miles to run. Groningen, isn't it? It's a famous chess tournament that happens at Groningen, isn't there? I don't think I've ever been this high on a normal flight. $43,000 feet. It's pretty special, isn't it? So Adrian's asking, is this a payware mod? Yes, it is. It's the Fly Simware Learjet 35A. Just looking it up online on a different screen for you, it's $40. Another aircraft came out last night, but I'm not going anywhere near it yet because I think they've set fire to their server farm. Or to their server, I should say. The Phenom has been released. And the guys that developed it, it's the same people that made the Mustang, the C510 Mustang. Oh, we're overspeeding. I'm just pulling the throttles back. So 86%-ish, 87% should be enough. And we're right on the limit. So let's move the reference marker of what we're allowed to get away with at these altitudes. Ideally you want a little bit of leeway there so you don't, if the wind changes or whatever, you don't go and overspeed the airframe. About to make a right turn, and here it comes. See it flashing away there on the GPS, warning us. So the next leg will be 92 degrees, so we can go and get a little bit ahead of the airplane for a change. You can see the CDI coming in as we near the track. You get some impression, seeing the people inside the cabin there, of just how small a Learjet actually is, and how pokey it is inside. They are tiny. If you ever see pictures of people sat in the cabin or trying to stand up in the cabin, you absolutely can't stand up. Even if you were on your knees, you'd probably still hit your head on the ceiling. So Adrian's saying he's still struggling with approach and landing phase on the 330 Neo, or 320 Neo. Keep in mind that I started playing 2 weeks ago. Hey, lots to learn then. The Airbus is fantastic. The fly-by-wire Airbus. Have you got an Xbox or a PC, Adrian? If you can get the fly-by-wire Airbus, it's very good. If you can't, I'm not sure what's available in the marketplace. The out-of-the-box Airbus works fine, to be honest, and it will teach you a lot. And it has improved over time. So yeah, okay, so you got the PC. Yeah, so you can get the fly-by-wire Airbus. It's worth getting because it works a lot better than the out-of-the-box Airbus. Okay, so 61 miles to go until we get to Bremen. So we're just about to cross over the border into Germany from Holland or the Netherlands. So we're making really, actually quite rapid progress here. It's because this thing is shifting, isn't it? 426 knots. It's not hanging around. Although saying that, we could go a lot faster, look. We've come off the throttle. I think the wind has changed as well. And we've lost a lot of airspeed. So we're going to open the throttles back up. See if we can get any other nav beacons to play with us. What's the range on this one over here? 60 miles? No, that's no good for us. I guess we could tune that to one of the ones to the north. Are these Vortec or... No, it's just Tacan. That's no good to us either. So approaching Bremen. It's a shame it's so cloudy, we're not actually getting to see much, are we? Like layers and layers of cloud across the whole of Europe. We can probably see that. I'll just put ourselves back inside. We can probably see that in Navigraph, can't we? Navigraph have never fixed that bug, have they? With it coming up blank. So if we go... We're on high, we go to weather. So, is there any... Okay, there's rain around. But what about the cloud cover? Is it everywhere? Not necessarily. Oh, this is at altitudes though, isn't it? We are at... I mean, obviously there's no cloud where we are. But if you look lower down, you can see... Yeah, it's all fairly low level. Oh my word. 2,000 feet, it's complete cloud cover. So we're going to have fun and games getting into Berlin. Should we go and have a look? Open the airport, go for the weather. Overcast 500 feet, oh my word. So ceiling 500 foot above ground level, so good job we've got ILS really. So we're going to have to make sure we nail the ILS because we're not going to see the runway until we're 500 foot over the ground. So Marky is saying he's just bought the Kodiak, fantastic aeroplane. Really good fun. Just be careful with the Kodiak, we're blowing the engine up. Also be careful with getting near stall speed and trying to climb out at low speeds, because the torque and the slipstream effect and everything combines. Oh, we're going to overspeed again, aren't we? Everything combines in the Kodiak to cause some really creative disasters. Now I forget what the name of it is. The Kodiak's got an enormous propeller on the front of it, and when you lift the nose to climb out, it means that the right hand side of the propeller grabs more air than the left, because you are pitching the blades into the airflow, so the airplane will corkscrew left really hard, and you can counter it with rudder, but you have to be ready for it. If you're not ready for it, you'll drop the left wing, because it will stall the left wing as it corkscrews left, and if that happens, it's goodbye Kodiak. Yeah, Paul, just reading your comments about the sounds for the Learjet, I'm sure they will improve the sounds. This is very early access, remember. In terms of systems, I'm stunned that it's as good as it is already, but the sounds need a lot of work. But Flight Simware are a great developer. The other aeroplanes they've made in the sim have been very, very good, and they've continually worked on them to improve them. Yeah, so Hobanagaric, I hope that's how you pronounce your name there. It's a classic with the Kodiak, because it's got such a big propeller. When you pitch up, you know, the more alpha angle you get, the more the right hand side of the propeller has thrust than the left. So yeah, the problem going on with this aeroplane is you can hear it outside. There's like a phasing happening, so they need to fix that. So I imagine they're playing two jet engine sounds and they're interacting with each other and producing that phasing sound that you can hear. But I'm not an airplane developer, I'm a lowly software developer that works on corporate systems, so I've never had a go at making an airplane in the sim. I don't know what's involved. I'm loath to get involved in it because I think it'll be a slippery slope and I think I would like it. So I'll stay away from it if I can. Yes, I've seen the engine sync buttons. Apparently, yeah, it's if you go and look down here. Where are they? I can never remember where they are. When I was first finding my way around the aeroplane, I found them. Oh, are they down? Yeah, here they are. So you can either sync the turbines or the fans, but you can't actually turn the sync on by the look of it, which is a shame. Or maybe I just don't know how to turn it on properly. But over time, I imagine all of this will become functional, which will be good. And we have more to play with, more to mess up, more to make mistakes with. But you can obviously see the direction they're going. There's a lot still for them to model. And we're slow again. I'm finding this quite difficult to get a happy medium between maybe about 87%, then will keep us fairly fast but not decelerating. Okay, so we just turned again, so let's go and tune in the next VOR beacon as well to give ourselves the backup. So we've left Bremen now, we're on our way to the Brunkendorf VOR station, 11770. Okay, so we'll leave this counting away from the previous one for the moment. This is interesting. This has lost its mind. 11240. Oh, is it still picking up? That's interesting. Okay, let's tune it into Bremen. 11745. Okay, that makes more sense. It was still picking up the Groningen VOR even from that distance. So what's the range on this one? See, look at that. Oh no, it's the ILS, sorry. 150 miles, that makes sense. So the next one, yeah, 11770 is the Brunkendorf VOR. Oh, what was the range on it? 80 miles. So if we put a range ring on here, we can see when we should pick that up, just for a bit of fun along the way. So anytime soon. Going to remove that range ring, don't need it really. So if we were to switch over to it, it should wake up fairly soon. And in terms of doing our descent, if we measure this, so when we are about 40 miles out from it, we'll begin our descent. We'll initially climb, well, let's have a look at the, let's get ourselves familiar with the flight plan. Have I not got the flight plan window open? No, I haven't. Open window layout, default. Let's just get ourselves familiar with any restrictions on the way in. So there really isn't any until we get to 3,000 feet. So the star is pretty much wide open. Let's go and have a look at the official chart in Navigraph and get the weather switched off because it's being a pain now. So above 8,000, above 6,000. So yeah, as long as we get to Ogba at say 10,000, we should be good. Ogba is a very long way away at the moment. So if you think about it, we are at 43,000 feet. So we want to lose 33,000 feet. So that's about 96 miles, 99 miles. Or say 100. So if we were to measure 100 from Ogba, so that's 50. So then measure another 50. And that will give us our top of descent is going to be about just east of Bispingen. So let's go and set our descent to 10,000 feet. And then once we get to about another 10-15 miles down track, we'll start our descent, just coming down at sort of 1,800 feet a minute or so. We'll try and use power to do it, put it on speed mode. So if we go altitude select, we're in no hurry to descend. Obviously we can come down a lot more swiftly if we needed to, but it's all looking good. Have you seen the controller that's been released for Flight Sim? I'm on Xbox, it looks impressive. Which controller? There's loads of controllers for Flight Sim. There's a Boeing one, there's an Airbus one, there are multiple ones by the likes of Logitech and various specialist manufacturers as well. Verpil is probably the market leader for the high quality controllers, but they're very, very expensive. Okay, I'm going to start this descent, so we'll go to speed mode. And we will pull the throttles back and see what happens to the descent rate. That's in the right ballpark. It's probably a bit too slow. So I'm just using the power to adjust the descent rate. It's probably not enough now. Just easing the throttles back. Just a tiny bit. There we go. This is going to be fun and games, isn't it? Trying to get this to do it accurately. There we go. It's about 1,800 feet a minute. But it's not going to stay there, is it? Because obviously the wind is changing around us. So we'll see how we go. So we turned the seatbelt sign off earlier, didn't we? Let's go and tell everybody to put the seatbelts back on, even though it's going to be a little while until we get down to cruising altitude. The Arrow Yourman. I'm not. Oh, is this the specialist Xbox controller that looks like a handheld controller, not a joystick or anything like that? Yeah, I've seen a picture of it. I didn't really read the article about it because I don't use anything like that. But yeah, if you're somebody that's an Xbox gamer and it makes a difference for Flight Sim, it's probably very good. So we can have a little bit of a cheat here. We can look on LittleNavMap and we can see. Now we want to be 10,000 feet to Ogba, don't we? Which is here. So we can see we're not coming down steeply enough. Yeah, can you see that? You've got that vector there. So what we're going to do is pull the throttle back. And we want that vector to come down. That's better. Yeah, ideally a little way before Ogba, so we get some time to sort the airplane out and figure out what we do next. That's looking good. Having said that, look, it's stretching out again. Obviously we don't get a green banana in this aeroplane on the display, which is a bit of a shame because it hasn't got a flight management computer like modern aeroplanes have, so you have to do much more mental arithmetic if you're going to do it properly, and that obviously comes with knowing the aeroplane and being experienced in doing approaches. So let's go and zoom in, start to see some detail on the map. Yeah, so this is looking like we're on target to get to Ogba. At 10,000 feet. So once we've done that, we're going for 8,000 feet at DB511, sorry, above 8,000, above 6,000 at dB521, then decelerate to 220 knots, and then above 3,000 at Tegbo, and then you're on the ILS. I don't think I've ever flown, or I haven't flown into Germany, into Berlin for a very long time. So this is going to be fascinating, just to, although we're not going to see anything, are we? This is purely going to be an instrument approach. Look at that cloud. I've never seen it this bad. Should we put the head tracking on? That is absolutely insane, isn't it? That cloud around the airplane is just... We're going to be in that soon. Thank goodness for GPS, eh? Probably need to slow down a little bit more, or less power I should say, to allow it to descend a bit quicker. So while we're waiting, let's go and familiarise ourselves with the approach. So there's the ILS, fairly straightforward. So it does have Cat 3, which is fantastic, but whether this aircraft can do Cat 3 is another matter. We'll hand fly the last little bit anyway. We'll use the cloud ceiling as our opportunity to disengage and take over. I'm just looking for the transition altitude. There we go, 5,000 feet. So we need to go and look up the weather at some point. While we're waiting, we can do that. So, we already did, didn't we? 1011, which is 2985 hectopascals. Sorry, inches. 1011 hectopascals, 2985 inches. Okay, so let's go and turn the course to match and press D again. Is this going to behave itself today? So the actual course is 116 degrees. You can see we're doing nothing like that. We're having to crab for the wind. So if we put this on as 120, there's the actual course. And we are crabbing to maintain it. So we've got a pretty strong crosswind going on. If we go and look in LittleNavMap, you can see that we've got a 55 knot crosswind. Obviously that will abate as we get lower. So we're down to 27,000 feet now. We're showing low fuel. I thought we had enough. Are we going to have to divert? Where's the fuel levels? I wonder if the cabin heating is the reason one engine runs hotter than the other. Fuel quantity, 1,500 pounds of fuel, and we are burning it at the moment at 0.25 or 250 pounds an hour. So we're going to do this easily. No need to worry about the fuel. I wonder if we can make the low fuel light go out. Probably not. So Alec Clapperton says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too, Alec. So I'm just torturing myself here with the trying to fly the Learjet in something like a correct manner, following horrible conditions into Berlin. So we're just coming down to 10,000 feet at Ogbur, and then we'll hopefully, let's put the approach map on. So coming in for 10,000 feet, then we'll go for 8,000 feet. The only reason I've chosen 10,000 feet is because then we can deal with airspeed. And so let's get this set for 250 knots for our maximum. But there were some restrictions, weren't there, along the way. 220 knots when we get down to DB531. But at least if we get to 10,000 feet below 250 knots. So we're still descending. The vector on LittleNavMap is looking a bit high, so we're in speed mode. So I'm pulling the throttles back further, which will increase the descent rate. Obviously we're getting into the thicker air, which is why it's having more trouble. Okay, that's better. So the reason this track looks so crazy is we simulated climbing up to 43,000 for part of the journey. So we're now coming in. Ignore the performance plot from LittleNavMap, it doesn't know what it's talking about. So we're coming in for Ogbur at 10,000, then we've got above 8,000 at DB511, so on and so forth. Okay, 10,000 feet left to drop. Going to be in the clouds soon and not going to see very much until we are almost on top of Berlin. How are we doing on the descent plot? Still looking okay for Ogbur at 10,000. But then we'll be targeting 8,000 feet. For DB511. So if we just increase the range on this, yeah, we've got the marked in look, so it's all going to be fairly straightforward to follow it in. So 10,000 feet we will put the landing lights on. Not that they're going to help us much today. Getting closer and closer to this horrific cloud. It's going to be good fun, isn't it? Instrument approaches. So A Aviation says good morning from Indianapolis. Good morning to you too. So we're flying into Berlin, anyone that's new joining us, and the weather's atrocious, as you can see. The visibility is going to be very poor until about 500 feet above ground level, according to the weather. We'll see if that is true. There is every chance that we may need to divert, but we haven't got much fuel left to play with. We're going to be very low on fuel when we get there. I mean, we'll have enough, but we'll see. I'm sure we'll be fine. I've done some dodgy approaches in the past, so... So we're approaching, we're not going down steep enough, are we? So let's go and get this down to 10,000. So 8,000 feet for DB511. So let's go and pre-select that. We are just approaching 10,000 feet in a few moments when we do so. Let's go and do this ahead of time. Let's go and put our landing lights on. Can I explain about vectors? Do you mean in terms of the flight plan? So vectors basically mean that when you enter that part of the flight plan, you would be given instruction from air traffic control. In other words, there is no direct flight plan for you to follow. So generally when you enter where it says vectors, you continue on the heading you were on until you receive instruction. You quite commonly see it on a gap between the star and the approach to an airfield. Okay, so we're just coming down further. We need it to be above 8,000 here and then 6,000 at DP521, so we can probably do that in one go. To be honest, we're on course to do it. Because here's DB511. We'll still be above 8,000 when we come through it, which is good. So let's have a look at the plan. 6,000, and then we stay at 6,000, and then we need to drop to 3,000, above 3,000 for Tegbo, but by then we're on the ILS. So we can just watch ourselves fly around the racetrack part of this. As soon as we straighten up, we'll start descending below 6,000. So when this gets to 6,000, it will capture and we'll maintain airspeed at that point. Now we need to be 220 knots maximum by the time we get down here. So let's move the marker so we've got a visual reference for that. About there. So we need to lose a little bit of speed, but when we get to 6,000 that will happen anyway, and the speed is gently coming off. Okay, we're within 1,000 feet of our target altitude. So we need to have that barometric pressure ready. So 2985, let's do it now. A little bit ahead of time, but it won't hurt us. 2985, 2985, and 2985. So that agrees with Berlin. We're now at 6,000 feet, we've captured altitude, and the speed will be falling off because we've not had the engines running for ages. So we're holding at 6,000 feet as we fly around the track, and we just need to keep the speed below 220. Okay, so while the airplane flies itself around the track, I'm just going to keep an eye on that ground speed, see if it's increasing or decreasing. Slowly increasing, but not too bad. Let's go and have a look at the ILS frequency and get it tuned in. So we want 109.7, 65 degrees on the course. So let's get the course first. So 69 degrees is the runway direction, or the ILS direction. And 109.7 we said, didn't we? So 109. 70. Done. We could also go and tune in the Brandenburg VOR 114.1 on nav 2. Cool. So we're just doing this turn into the racetrack part of the approach. So we're heading off to the southwest, and then once we straighten up we'll start descending for 3,000 and we'll pick up the ILS somewhere in this area, hopefully. How are we doing? Let's have a look. Let's just check things around the airplane. How much fuel have we got left? About £1,400, and we're burning it at what did I say? It's up here, isn't it? Somewhere. Fuel flow. Yeah, we've got loads. So on the next leg of the plan, out towards B536. Why is that not straightening up in a hurry? It's having real problems making sharp turns, isn't it? Should we increase the throttle just a little bit? I'm just worried we're getting towards... So flaps can come down at 200 knots, but we need to fly in first. So obviously we're going to lose visibility. Should we update that weather report? So overcast at 500 feet. So we may get visibility earlier than that. But it's saying ceiling 500 feet. We might be alright. We'll find out. What's the speed doing? So it's just hovering around 210 knots, which is fine. So we've got the seatbelt signs on, we've done the barometric pressures, we've got the landing lights on. Pretty much ready. So it's just a case of going through the routine of getting the flaps down, the gear down, monitoring the throttle, putting glide slope mode on, seeing if we can capture the glide slope. So obviously we're not seeing it yet, we're too far away. We'll probably be somewhere in this region when we'll capture the glide slope. We'll soon find out. But I won't descend until we come past DB556 down to 3000. So you've got some markers there. Look, there's a mountain there, or hill, at 798 feet, so nothing for us to be concerned about. We're still at 6,000 at this point. so we'll probably be hit 3,000 somewhere over here. So there's nothing in our way. Okay, comes the big turn. Shall we look from outside? Yeah, the external sound is the biggest thing they probably need to fix, isn't it? And we're starting to get some icing happen, so let's go and deal with that. Good point, just looking at the live stream comments. Completely forgot about arming the thrust reversers last time. Yeah, we've sorted it this time, so don't worry. So we should be turning left again in a moment, and then we'll go and, because we're captured at 6,000 at the moment and holding, we'll come down for 3,000 on the selected altitude. Turning in towards finals. So what we'll do is go speed mode and pull the throttle back. So you should see the, oh, we have to capture that, don't we? There we go. Oh, sorry, we have to select and arm the altitude. I always forget that. So hopefully the glide slope will wake up soon. Nav 2 was, yeah, we're 29 miles out, which we can see, well, it will light up in a moment on here on the GPS telling us as well. Because remember, we tuned Nav 2 into the Brandenburg VOR. So if we look at LittleNavMap now, we can zoom in over here and get some idea. If we zoom in, I always forget how this works, there we go. So we can see our vector isn't quite steep enough. So we're going to come off the throttle, which will increase the descent rate because we're in speed mode, remember. And you can see it's now coming down a bit too steeply, so we probably want about 700 feet a minute or so. Just to do it in a nice contained manner. So I'm just playing with the throttle to stabilize the descent rate. Coming down to 5,000 feet. Hopefully we'll pick up the radio soon. As you can see, we want to be in underneath the ILS, so this is perfect. Look how pretty the sectors are for Berlin. That's great, isn't it? Um, 63 degrees, so let's go and line the course up just so it looks nice and neat and tidy, and that will show us if we're crabbing. Put the heading bug as well on the same direction. And we'll be hoping to pick up. Now we're losing descent rate. I think it's just the wind shifting around, to be honest. So we've got 20 miles to run. Hopefully the glide slope is going to appear very soon. This is to the next waypoint, which is Tegbo. We're within 1,000 feet of our target altitude, which is good. So just looking again at the chart here, we need to be it's looking good actually, isn't it? So take both 3,000 feet and then just follow the like I said, we should pick up glide slope by then. If we don't, something's gone horribly wrong. So it should be any time soon. Please let us have a glide slope. Let's just double check the frequency. 109.70. 10970. 65 degrees on the course is there. Come on, glide slope, where are you? So here comes 3,000 feet. Here comes Tegbo. So let's reduce the speed a little bit to get us into flaps range. The gear probably can come down now, but I'm going to leave it for the moment. So we're 11 miles out from Brandenburg, 3 miles from Tegbo. Where is the glide slope? Okay, what we're going to do then, seeing as we don't have a glide slope, is set this to 0. What's the altitude of the airport, by the way? 156. So we're going to set this to 500. And we're going to go speed mode again. Oh, altitude select, speed mode. And I'm going to hope we pick up the glide slope very soon. Yay, we have glide slope. Hurrah, glide slope mode. Thank the Lord. So flaps to 8 degrees. And we can just go altitude hold until we pick up the glide slope now. We'll fly into it. There we go, we're on the glide slope. Cool, that was a close run thing, wasn't it? So we were only about 7 miles out when we picked up the glide slope. So now it's just a case of managing speed and flaps. So let's get ourselves sorted out here. Lower the speed down, so we want next stage of flaps, which will give us more drag, and then 150 knots for full flaps. Obviously we can't see anything outside really. Can we see anything below us? Just. Okay, let's get ready to get my joystick ready to take over. So there's 150 knots for full flaps. So 3.2 miles to run to the next waypoint. We can see on the map actually where we are, can't we? So we're almost on top of the airfield now. And we can see the lights, I think. The runway comes out of the murk directly in front of us, and the autopilot's struggling to hold the plot, so I'm going to take over and fly it from here. We're going a bit slow. That might be why the autopilot was struggling actually. So the Pappies and the ILS do not agree with each other here, which is interesting. Okay, so we don't really need the reversers here because this is a bit crazy, yeah, so I'm going to remove them almost immediately. It was good fun to try them out. So we do need to put the nose wheel steering on. Raise the flaps, come off at this exit. High speed exit. And start braking. Get the landing lights back to taxi. And welcome to Brandenburg. So not Brandenburg, Berlin. That was fun in a not fun at all way. There we go. We're head tracking now so we can see where we're taxiing, which is always useful. It's a long way to the terminal, isn't it? Not that I'm following correct procedures to get there at all, I'm just weaving my way through the taxiways randomly. No, that's a service road. We're not supposed to be going that way. Let me go and have a look at a map. Hang on, let's get the parking brake on. Where's the chart of the airport? Okay, we've turned off one too early. U-turn. This is where it pays to have two people in the cockpit, one to look at the chart and another to actually direct the aircraft. There's lots of gates here, aren't there? So just out of interest, before we go any further, let's hold at the holding point on this intersection of taxiways. Where would the business jets actually park here? Probably way down in the corner somewhere. Yeah, and probably up at this end as well, away from the big terminals. Anyway, we'll go and find our way around. We go to apron A, shall we, on the far side of the terminals. The reason you're not seeing aeroplanes anywhere is because I've switched them off, because it saves the frame rate. It's one of the biggest bugs in Flight Simulator, is when it is rendering aircraft in on the ground, it absolutely murders the frame rate. It pauses the simulator because it's single threaded as it puts the assets in place. Which is why on approach, if you have got the aircraft on the ground, about 3 miles out, the simulator starts stuttering really badly. Nearly missed the tent then. Okay, so that's us done. I guess we can shut the engines down pretty swiftly. Let's go back to batteries. Go and turn all these switches off. Inverters, store warnings. The hydraulic pump was on when I got in the aeroplane, so the seatbelt sign can come off. Turn off the thrust reverser arming switches. And then just the power, I guess. Just double checking around the place. And if we're clever enough at this, we can go and open the door. There we go. We survived. Hurrah! Tea and medals for us. So obviously I made a few mistakes here and there, but it was good. It was good to actually have a proper workout of sorts with the jet and get more familiar with following a pattern or following a flight plan more accurately, especially on that approach there. It was a bit nervy that we didn't pick up the ILS until very late on, but it was all good. So 717 fan, if you keep doing that, I will ban you. I don't have time to read and do everything all at the same time, so please be courteous above all else. So you've basically said answer my question, answer my question, answer my question about 50 times. Okay, I'm not having it. Right, anyway, I'm going to leave the channel, leave the live stream there. I've got to go and do a load of chores now, so I'll see you all again soon. Take care.